Morning. Today is Tuesday, May the 9th, 2017. It's 10 a.m. It's my pleasure to call to order today's meeting of the Tennessee Department of Commerce and Insurance, Board of Funeral Directors and Embalmers. Ms. Lisa Mosby, will you please call the roll?
Dennis Bridges.
Here.
Mark Cawthorn.
Here.
Robert Davis. Here. Jeff Duffer.
Here.
Robert Helms.
Here.
Clark McKinney.
Here.
Charles Rahm.
Here.
Mr. President, all board members are here and accounted for.
Thank you, Ms. Mosby. First item on the agenda will be to approve the agenda.
Motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
Got a motion by Mr. Rahm, second by Mr. McKinney. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next up will be the minutes.
Motion to approve the minutes as they're printed.
Second it.
Got a motion by Mr. McKinney, second by Mr. Duffer. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next item will be the formal hearing. Ms. Pamela Spicer.
There is no formal hearing this morning. We will move forward with the legal report. I will read through the legal report this morning. You can stop me at any time if you have questions. Number 1 is 2017-001461 establishment. Number 2, 2017-001462 director. Pursuant to inspection in December 2016, the establishment was cited for failure to maintain crematory inspection records and failure to maintain a copy of the funeral director's license at each location. The inspector's memorandum further stated that the director was not present at the time of the investigation, and the owner stated that the director works from another office location. The funeral home did respond and provided all necessary documentation as far as the copy of the necessary documents. As you can see in the disciplinary history, the establishment has some history ranging in consent orders from 250 to 750, and the director has executed a consent order in the past in 2009 with a $1,000 civil penalty. The recommendation at this time for the current violations against the establishment are to authorize a formal hearing with authority to settle via consent order with a civil penalty of $500 and to further authorize a new complaint to investigate the possible unlicensed activity of the establishment owner. Against the funeral director, closure with a letter of warning due to the request for authorization to open a new complaint to investigate the potential unlicensed activity.
Motion to accept recommendation.
Second.
Oh, excuse me. Motion by Mr. Rahm, second by Mr. Cochran. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Number 3.
Number 3 is 2017-007661 establishment. Pursuant to inspection in August 2016, the establishment was found to be in violation for failure to notify the board of a change of address. Specifically, the lease for the funeral home ended in June 2016, and the funeral home changed locations and executed a new lease on July 1, 2016. The funeral home states that no services were provided between June 17, 2016 and July 1, 2016 when the new lease was executed. There's no disciplinary history for this establishment. We are recommending authorization of formal hearing with authority to settle via consent order with a civil penalty of $250.
Did they give a reason why that they did not notify the board of the change of location?
No, they only stated that they did not provide the services. My recollection is they did not give me a specific reason why they failed to notify us of the change of location.
Motion to accept council's recommendation.
Second.
A motion by Mr. McKinney and second by Mr. Ron. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Number 4, please.
Number 4 is 2017-007981, establishment pursuant to inspection in January 2017. The funeral home was found to have changed managers without first notifying the board. The funeral home responded stating that there was a change in the change in management was made January 2nd, 2017, but the notice to the board was not mailed until January 20th, 2017. However, the funeral home states that it had a telephone call with the executive director regarding the change of management and is requesting this matter be closed with a letter of warning. You can see the disciplinary hearing. There is some from 2005, 2012 with a $500 consent order and a $1,000 consent order. Due to the fact the response was made and they explained what happened, we're recommending closure with a letter of warning.
Motion to accept council's recommendation.
A motion by Mr. McKinney, second by Mr. Bridges. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Number 5, please.
Number 5 is 2017-008111, establishment. Pursuant to inspection in August 2016, the funeral home's license was found to be expired between August 1st, 2016 and August 14th, 2016. During that time, the funeral home arranged for and performed 2 services. The funeral home was also cited for failure to itemize cremation fees, which constituted a violation of the funeral rule. The funeral home responded acknowledging their mistake for both issues, stating that it was a credit card glitch, which caused the non-payment of the license renewal fee, and acknowledging the mistake on the statement of goods and services, which has been corrected. They have a disciplinary history from 2008 with a $250 consent order. However, we are recommending closure with a letter of warning.
Motion to accept recommendation.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Ron, second by Mr. Duffer. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Number 6, please.
Number 6 is 2017-010, establishment. This is a consumer complaint alleging that the funeral home failed to provide flowers at the graveside cremation services and failed to provide the 3-line obituary in the newspaper. The complainant also states that the respondent failed to file a statement of death with the Social Security office. However, the funeral home did respond, provided proof that the statement was properly filed with the Social Security office. In addition, the funeral home responded and acknowledged that the flowers were not ordered and refunded the funds back to the complainant. The funeral home denies that it failed to provide the obituary because in the response to the complaint, the funeral home stated that the deceased family never provided the information to be included in the obituary. I've been in contact with the complainant, and he can provide no proof that he sent an email to the funeral home with the information as needed for the obituary. This establishment has a disciplinary history ranging from 2006 to 2010 with consent orders, letters of warning, and in fact a $15,000 final order regarding, as you can see, some issues with identification and failure to identify human remains. In the recommendation, we've authorized a formal hearing and settlement via consent order with a civil penalty of $250.
Appears that this firm just has a hard time getting it in line with their history.
I would agree, and sometimes, just so you know, in the disciplinary hearing, if the information is not in core, I may not know specifically what if they executed a consent order for $250, just as an example. Depending on how far back it was, I may not have access to that information. But they do, I agree, have a significant history.
With that history, I would like to make a recommendation that the civil penalty be $500.
I'm fine with that if the board authorizes that.
Just to clarify, the only thing that you found proof of there was the complaint about the flowers, correct?
Correct, because they did provide proof that they did provide the statement of death to the Social Security office, and the issue with the obituary was the complainant couldn't prove to me that they actually submitted the necessary paperwork. So the issue is definitely the flowers.
Was that in form of a motion?
Yes, it was in form of a motion.
When did they refund the money? Do you know, was it before or after the complaint was filed, or?
My understanding it was before the complaint was filed that they refunded the money. During the whole process of all of this, they refunded the money.
So they didn't get busted and then refund the money. It looks to you as if they refunded before the investigation began.
Correct. When the complainant filed their complaint, they kind of put all this in a bag together, for lack of a better way to describe it. They put it all in their complaint. But some of it had already been rectified by the time they complained. But they were obviously putting us on notice of everything that had happened regarding their loved one.
Okay.
Do you have a date of the service?
I don't with me, but I can look for that if
We don't have a
need.
date that the flower refund was initiated?
I don't know that I have a date for the service either. I'm happy to look in the file to double check that, but I'm not sure I have actual dates. It's based on the complaint that I'm telling you that at the time, based on the complainant's information, they acknowledged there was a refund, but they're obviously still weren't happy because they didn't get the flowers that they're saying they were entitled to, but I don't have the actual timing.
Motion on the floor of Mr. Rom to increase the fine, the civil penalty to $500. Is there a second for that motion?
I will second it.
Got a second by Mr. McKinney. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Number 7, please.
Number 7 is 2017-013701, establishment. Pursuant to inspection in January 2017, the establishment was found to be in violation for failure to provide the description of merchandise on 4 of the 9 caskets displayed, and 5 of the 9 caskets were not listed on the casket price list. The funeral home did provide a response, states that the reason for the violation was due to the display room being in the process of being restocked at the time of the inspection. The funeral home did provide an updated and corrected price list. This establishment has a disciplinary history from 2006 and 2017 with a $750 consent order being executed in the past. The recommendation is formal hearing with authorization to settle via consent order with a civil penalty of $250.
I guess I'm having a little difficulty with this. It says that They were found in violation for failure to provide the description of merchandise on 4 of the 9 caskets displayed, and 5 of the 9 caskets were not listed on their price list. Well, since they're not on their price list, it's irrelevant that they're being restocked, unless they are just completely new units to the room. Is that what I'm to assume?
And the information I provided was the information provided in response by the funeral home. Also, Mr. Gribble and I had a discussion about this particular complaint because I had some questions as well about how that would work with the casket price list and the merchandise. But we felt because of the significance of basically 50% of the caskets being out of compliance with the requirements of the price list that the civil penalty was appropriate.
I'll make a motion to accept.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Cochran, second by Mr. McKinney. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Number 8, please.
Number 8 is the final establishment complaint on this month's legal report, 2017-013-731. Pursuant to inspection, the funeral home was found to have failed to maintain the most recent crematory inspection report as required by law. Further, the funeral home violated the funeral rule by failing to disclose a cash advance item, the crematory fee, on 2 statements of goods and services. The funeral home responded and states that it provided a copy of the crematory inspection report on the date of the inspection after it was requested. Further, the funeral home acknowledges the mistake with regard to the cremation fee being inserted in the wrong place on the statement of goods and services. Based on their response, we recommended closure with a letter of warning, and you can see the disciplinary history ranges from 2001 through 2016, with it ranging from a letter of warning to a consent order of $750. But again, based on their response, we recommended closure with a letter of warning.
Where are these folks putting their cremation fee? Are they in a package, or are they putting them under their services instead of cash advance?
I would have to look back at the information provided in the complaint, and just for this case and for any future cases, if you all do have questions and ever want to roll a complaint to the next month's meeting, we can obviously do that if I'm unable to provide the information that you need, because I would have to go back and look through the complaint and the response. Sometimes that's the audit report or the inspection report. Or if you have questions, we could move to the next item on the agenda. I can look for this information and we can come back to number 8 if we need to.
That was just a question that I had, and I'll make a motion to accept council's recommendation.
I'll second it.
A motion by Mr. McKinney, second by Mr. Duffer. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. That concludes the legal report. Thank you, Ms. Spicer.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda will be the director's report. Mr. Gribble.
Thank you, Mr. President. The first thing is a performance and audit compliance audit. I'm sure you folks are probably getting tired of hearing about this, so instead of reading the normal thing that I read, which we'll put in the minutes, if you'll focus your attention on the second and third paragraph. As the board members may recall, I initially met with the auditors from the Controller of the Treasury on August 22, 2016 for an entrance conference with the initial interview regarding the Board of Funeral Directors and Embalmers. And since the last board meeting that occurred on March 14, 2017, There's not been any request for information or documents from auditors of the Division of the State Audit that are conducting the performance and compliance audit with the funeral board. It's my understanding that the auditors were on site in the building for a period of time, that they've left the building, so it's my supposition, and supposition is the key word, that they're writing their report and will be forwarding that appropriate people and making a public record of it. And so hopefully by the time we meet the next time, or the time we meet 2 times from now, we'll have a report to give you from them. Next item is the legislative update. I also emailed this to each of you last night so that you would have a copy that you could print off, or a place that you could go when you got back to your computer and click on these links and read them. The first one is Senate Bill 0019, House Bill 0993. It's been enacted. It's Public Chapter 158. It's effective July 1, 2017. The wording below is exactly from the public chapter, and for the benefit of those that might be watching on video, this is Section 1 is TCA Title 62, Chapter 5, Part 7 is amended by adding the following as a new appropriately designated section. A funeral establishment that has the custody of the remains of a deceased person, but is not the establishment selected by the persons named in TCA 625703 with the right of disposition to provide funeral services, shall release the remains to the funeral establishment selected by the persons named in 625703 with the right of disposition during normal business hours unless otherwise agreed to by the 2 funeral establishments. The receiving funeral establishment shall be responsible for the cost of any merchandise or services provided by the initial funeral establishment, which shall be payable to the initial funeral establishment at the time of release. However, the cost of merchandise or services provided shall not exceed the prices for the merchandise or services listed on the general price list of the initial funeral establishment. And Section 2 of that says this act shall take effect July 1, 2017, the public welfare requiring it. I'll go through these, and then if you have questions, I'll be glad to answer either one. The second one is Senate Bill 0428, House Bill 0471. It's been enacted. It's Public Chapter 139. The effective date is April 17, 2017, so it's already in effect. It's an act to amend Tennessee Code Annotated Section 625313 relative to requirements for funeral establishments. Section 1 is that TCA 625313D is amended by deleting the language date of birth, date of death, and social security number, and substituting instead the language date of birth, date of death, wherever it may appear. This act shall take effect upon becoming law of the public welfare requiring it. So basically that deletes the requirement for the social security number on the permanent identification device for either burial or cremation. The third one is Senate Bill 0611, House Bill 0624. It's been enacted. It's Public Chapter 144. It is amended by adding the following as language to a new subsection, and it's regarding Section 625313. Nothing in this chapter prohibits the use of a licensed funeral establishment to prepare any remains for disposition or to perform or offer to perform commemorative services if the commemorative services are performed in compliance with this chapter and applicable provisions entitled 68 and rules promulgated pursuant to this chapter and Titled 68. For the purposes of this subsection, commemorative services means any ceremony for the dead prior to burial, cremation, or any other legal form of final disposition. Section 2, this act shall take effect upon becoming law of the public welfare requiring it. And then the last one is Public Chapter, it's Senate Bill 1305, House Bill 1217. It's been enacted. It's Public Chapter 154. Effective date is July 1, 2017. Section 1, it amends TCA 625601C by deleting the subsection and substituting the following. Each licensee holding a Tennessee license shall submit with the license renewal application satisfactory proof of a completion of a minimum of 10 hours of continuing education coursework approved by the board. Compliance with the continuing education coursework is mandatory for renewal of the license. Of the 10 hours of continuing education coursework, 5 hours must be attended in person. For public purposes of this subsection C, attended in person means the continuing education coursework is completed by the licensee in the physical presence of the provider of the coursework, or is completed by the licensee through an interactive virtual program that requires participants to confirm their presence during the program. Section 2 of this act shall take effect July 1, 2017, the public welfare requiring it. And legal and I have a meeting this afternoon, and then Ms. Hooper and I have a meeting scheduled for later this week to discuss these new laws. I mean, one of them is very self-explanatory, the one with the permanent identification device. I mean, that's as clear as it can be. I mean, that's very clear. The others we'll talk about should legal bring some rules to you to consider rulemaking, and how those. I have sent an email to the field reps to let them know that the Social Security number is no longer required device, so that they know and understand that. And I've sent them a copy of this, and Ms. Hooper may have some comments. Yes, we'll meet and meet with different people in legal, and then she and I'll have more for you, hopefully at the next meeting regarding that. Also wanted to make you aware of the exam administration contract. The exam administration contract between the Tennessee Board of Funeral Directors and Embalmers and the International Conference of Funeral Service Examining Board expires June 30th, 2017. Representatives of the Department of Commerce and Insurance are working with the conference on a new contract regarding the state board exam, which is comprised of two parts: a funeral service arts section, which would be what we would call the funeral director exam, and a funeral service sciences section, which is what we would call the embalmer exam. And secondly, a laws, rules, and regulations exam, which is called the LRR exam. A new exam administration contract is expected to be in place for the expiration date of the contract. Licensee report. The report of licenses administratively approved by the Executive Director pursuant to Board authority for the period of March 14, 2017 through May 8, 2017. Have a list of establishments and individuals there. We do not have any closed establishments to report to you today since the last board meeting. Disciplinary action. This is a report of consent orders administratively accepted and approved by the Executive Director pursuant to the Board authority for the period of March 1, 2017 through April 30th, 2017. And there are 4 different consent orders listed there. Complaint report. As for the number of complaints as of May 8, 2017, there were 0 open regarding apprentices, 3 open regarding either a funeral director or an embalmer, and 22 open regarding establishments, for a total number of complaints of 25 complaints. Mr. President, I'll be glad to answer any questions that any board member has.
Questions? Motion to approve. Motion. And a motion by Mr. McKinney, second by Mr. Ron. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Any other business?
There are no individuals or establishments to come before the board, Mr. President. I have one thing under new business, if I might do that. Happy to give to board members. Okay, that's okay. I'll just pass it around while I verbally talk about it. We just recently, as a matter of fact, yesterday was the first time we'd sent out. We have developed, in the past few days, we have developed a survey regarding funeral home inspections. It's part of our customer focus, and what we're doing is when the field reps of all the establishments they inspect the previous week, then on Monday of the following week, Monday or Tuesday, depending on what their workload is, but we intend to do it soon after they do the inspections. Then there'll be an email sent to the manager of each establishment that was inspected the previous week, and ask them if they will take. It should take a minute to 2 minutes at the most to complete, to go online and complete that. And the only required item there is who did the inspection. There's a drop down menu, and they have a choice of 3 individuals, which are the 3 people that do the inspections. And it's feedback that's good for the inspector. It's good for me as the director, and it's just good to know, and it's a good opportunity for the establishment to tell us what they experienced. It's not doesn't take long, and we would appreciate the establishments completing it. And if we don't have an email address for them, then we can't send it to them. But if we have one on file, or if they provide one to the field rep during the inspection, then we can send that. And we yesterday I think we got 4, a total of 4 back, and those involved multiple field reps, and those were good information for us to have. And then those 4 yesterday were all positive. So just wanted to let you know about that and make you aware of that.
I think it's a good idea. The business. Anybody want to make a motion to approve?
Move to adjourn.
Tongue-tied. Got a motion, Mr. McKinney, second by Mr. Rom. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.